On August 8, 2026, the Pentagon released hundreds of documents the government fought for decades to bury. Cold orbs, silent triangles, Special Forces soldiers watching objects that defy our laws of physics. This isn't a theory anymore. This is the official record, and it's now yours to see. Welcome back to Yesteryear Secrets, the channel where the past refuses to stay buried. And today, the past just got a little less buried than usual. Because right now, sitting on a government server, open for anyone to download, are files the Pentagon didn't have to release. Files that, for most of your life, you were told didn't exist. Files with names like Gulf of Omen incident and Afghanistan triangle. Files that read less like bureaucratic paperwork and more like the opening scene of a movie you weren't supposed to see. Stay with me for the next few minutes, because by the end of this video, you're going to know exactly what's inside this release, the orbs, the triangle, the soldiers who watched it happen. And you're going to understand why this batch is different from every UFO story that came before it. Let's get into it. 1. The secret that kept getting bigger. Here's something you already know, even if you've never said it out loud. The government has never been fully honest about what's in its skies. You've felt that, haven't you? That quiet suspicion, that sense that somewhere in a filing cabinet or a hard drive or a locked room in a building with no windows, there's a folder with your name on it, not literally, but figuratively. A folder meant for the public. A folder that never quite makes it to the public. For 70 years, that suspicion had almost nothing to stand on. A blurry photo here, a pilot story there, grainy footage that skeptics could wave away in a sentence. Enough to keep the questions alive, never enough to settle them. And if you've watched this channel for any length of time, you already know how this pattern goes. Think back to 1947, and a rancher in New Mexico finding strange debris scattered across his field. Think of the Air Force's own investigation, Project Blue Book, spending 22 years cataloging over 12,000 sightings, only to close its doors in 1969 with most of the public no more convinced than when it started. Think of the pilots, the radar operators, the air traffic controllers who quietly told the same story for decades. Something is up there, and nobody in a position of power wants to explain it to you. Every one of those moments ended the same way: a statement, a denial, a file sealed and forgotten. That was the pattern for 3 generations. Then, in April of 2026, something shifted. The White House ordered the declassification of aerial phenomena records, official language for the government is finally going to open the drawer. The first batch came out in May, then a second, a third, a fourth. Each one a little more revealing than the last, each one training the public to expect this might actually keep going. And on August 8, 2026, just days ago, the 5th batch landed. This one is different. Not because of who released it, because of what's inside it. 2. What actually got released. Let's slow down here because the details matter. According to Pentagon spokesman Sean Parnell, this 5th release pulls records from 5 separate corners of the U.S. government: the Defense Department, the FBI, the CIA, the State Department, and the Executive Office of the President. 5 agencies, 5 different filing systems, 5 different reasons to keep something quiet, now handing over documents, images, and video for the same release. Notice what that means for a second. This isn't one agency clearing out an old cabinet. This is a coordinated release across the exact institutions that, for generations, treated this subject as radioactive. And the timeline inside these files doesn't just cover last year or last decade. It stretches from 1950 all the way to 2026. 76 years of encounters, sightings, and reports. Some of them older than your grandparents. Some of them barely a few years old. All sitting in the same digital folder now. Somewhere in that stack are two cases that stand out from everything else. Two cases that once you hear them, you won't be able to unhear. Let's start over the water. 3. The Gulf of Omen. Picture this, it's 2021. U.S. Special Operations Forces are deployed over the Gulf of Omen. Trained professionals. The kind of people whose entire job is staying calm when everyone else would panic. Not conspiracy theorists. Not amateur skywatchers with a cell phone camera. Soldiers. And on this particular operation, 6 separate videos capture something that, on paper, should not exist. Not one object, not two. Approximately 25 separate instances of what the files call unidentified anomalous phenomena, UAP, the modern, more clinical replacement for the word UFO. The reports describe them as cold orbs, not hot, not glowing with engine heat the way you'd expect from any aircraft humans have ever built. Cold. These orbs move at low altitude, and here's where it stops sounding like anything conventional. They're clocked at speeds between 250 and 1,300 miles per hour. Think about that range for a second. That's not a typo, and it's not a rounding error. That's an object capable of moving at highway speed one moment and outrunning most fighter jets the next. And then there's the detail that should stop you cold. The report states these objects appeared responsive to aircraft cannon fire. Read that again. Responsive. Not destroyed, not indifferent. Responsive. As if whatever these things were, they registered the gunfire and reacted to it in real time. Imagine being one of those operators. Imagine watching your own instruments, watching the tracking footage, watching something that speeds up, slows down, and seems to answer back when you engage it. And then having to write that up in an official report, knowing exactly how it's going to sound to the people reading it back at headquarters. That's not folklore. That's not a campfire story passed down for 60 years. That's a declassified 2021 military record, released days ago, sitting in a government file right now. Sit with that for a moment. Picture the dark water below, the hum of the aircraft, the glow of a tracking screen, and then an object on that screen doing something no engineer in that cockpit could explain. 25 times, not once, not a fluke. 25 separate instances, recorded, time-stamped, and now sitting in a public archive with your name on the download button just as much as anyone else's. And it's not the only one. 4. The silent triangle over Bagram. Now travel back further. 2002. Bagram Air Base, Afghanistan. Dawn. A military pilot, a professional, trained to identify aircraft by silhouette alone, looks up and sees something that, by every rule he's ever learned, shouldn't be there. An equilateral triangle. Perfectly symmetrical. Moving through the sky at roughly 150 knots. Here's the detail that makes this account almost impossible to shake. It made no sound. No engine hum, no rotor wash, no sonic signature at all. And it carried no visible lights, nothing marking it the way every aircraft, drone, or satellite is required to be marked. Think about what that actually means. Every human-made object that flies has to announce itself somehow, through noise, through light, through a radar signature that fits a known pattern. This object did none of that. It simply moved, silently, deliberately. Over an active American military base at dawn, in the middle of a war zone, in front of a trained witness with every reason to report it accurately and no reason to lie. That account sat quietly in a government file for over 2 decades. Nobody, outside a small circle of officials, knew it existed. And now, because of a single presidential directive, and a rolling declassification process. It's public. You can read it. Today, 5. What this actually means. So, here's the question worth sitting with. Why now? Governments don't usually hand over their secrets out of generosity. They do it because keeping the secret has become more costly than releasing it, because the pressure of decades of leaks, lawsuits, whistleblowers, and public demand finally outweighs the comfort of silence. And this release tells us something important. The Pentagon isn't calling this a one-time event. Officials have said explicitly that additional files will come out on a rolling basis, with a growing archive available through the Defense Department's own UAP Records website. In other words, this isn't the end of the story. This is Chapter 5 of a story that's still being written, in real time, in front of you. Before you go looking for easy answers, it's worth being honest about what these files are and aren't. They aren't proof of extraterrestrial visitation. No document says the word alien, and skeptics have a fair point worth hearing. Cold orbs could theoretically be sensor artifacts, weather phenomena, or drones misread by strained equipment in a combat zone. A triangle with no lights could, in theory, be something terrestrial and simply misidentified in low dawn light. Keep that possibility in your back pocket. A healthy question is worth more than a comfortable answer. But here's what even the skeptics can't explain away. These aren't isolated claims from a single unreliable witness with something to gain. This is a paper trail. 5 federal agencies, each with their own standards for what gets written down and what gets thrown out, independently holding on to records that describe the same category of unexplained event across 7 decades, from Cold War-era sightings to a combat operation that happened within the last 5 years. What these files are, then, is something arguably more unsettling than a UFO photo. A growing, official, government-verified record of objects that trained military professionals could not identify, could not explain, and in some cases could not outrun. That distinction matters, because a mystery backed by 76 years of official records, 5 federal agencies, and first-hand testimony from Special Operations Forces isn't a rumor anymore. It's history, being written in real time, and you just watch the newest page get added. So here's what I want you to walk away with. Somewhere over the Gulf of Omen in 2021, something cold, fast, and seemingly aware watched a group of American soldiers back. Somewhere over Bagram in 2002, a silent triangle crossed a war zone in complete silence. And somewhere in Washington right now, there's a 6th batch of files already being prepared. If you want to be here when it drops, and trust me, you will, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss it. And I want to know what you think. Cold orbs that react to gunfire. A silent triangle with no lights. Coincidence, misidentification, or something else entirely? Drop your theory in the comments. I read every one of them, and some of the best video ideas on this channel have come directly from you. Until next time, keep asking the questions they hoped you'd forget to ask. I'll see you in the next one.